was taking a long, hard-earned break after the UK election, and then somebody took a potshot at Donald Trump, so I've got to cover this. Kafka himself would lay down his pen when faced with the base absurdity of modern political life. Folks, settle in, have a beverage, this is a juicy one. Let's start with unravelling the bizarre spectacle that was the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. We now know the shooter was Thomas Matthew Crooks, who in a daring attempt to redefine the term public nuisance, commando crawled his way over the roof of a building near the Butler County Fairgrounds in Pennsylvania, equipped with an AR-15 and a misguided sense of purpose. Now, gun nuts will get upset if you call this an assault rifle. That's not what AR stands for. Yeah. I know, it's an Armalite rifle. How do I know? Because it was used by the world-famous IRA in a bloody campaign of insurgency in Ulster, and it was commonly called the Widowmaker. And I bet Melania is disappointed that in the hands of a glorified school shooter, it failed to live up to expectations. This guy was a kitchen worker. His neighbours described him as a quiet loner, occasionally seen in hunting gear, into guns and demolitions on YouTube. This is America. People like this snap literally every day. You do not need to go pulling threads looking for conspiracies. There is no need to find an overarching framing narrative. This is America's disaffected youth targeting a firebrand fascist real estate grifter with political ambitions in the long tradition of Catcher in the Rye enthusiasts. This is a normal stateside Saturday, okay? Your mind is just running childlike away from the new reality. Weird shit is the new normal. Wake up, take the coffee, get on the treadmill, and start running. This is the baseline. This is the low water mark. This is just how it is from here on out and from now on. It has been hog wild and crazy for quite a long time, and you're just starting to catch up. This is not even way into the campaign. We've still got 4 months to go. I almost feel like traveling to Colorado, to Woody Creek, and doing a small necromantic ritual to see if I can get possessed by the spirit of Hunter S. Thompson. This is crazy. When the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. And by fucking Christ, I am taking all of you along with me on this weird, weird trip. Embrace the absurdity. Start running on the treadmill because this happened barely out of the starting gate. And the irony here is thicker than a Boxing Day shit. Die-hard Second Amendment supporters, those champions of the right to bear arms, are suddenly calling for calm and scratching their heads, wondering how a gunman could so easily get in position in an open carry state. The same guys who think that a good guy with a gun stops with a bad guy with a gun are flabbergasted that a bad guy with a gun actually showed up. And this is the problem with framing narratives. This is the problem with the mainstream media and tools like me shouting at news. And this is, I repeat again to you, why this channel is called Shouting at News. That's all this is. This is entertainment. And I do hope to have a maybe slightly more balanced take than most. But I do want you to take everything I say with a pinch of salt. Disbelieve it. Don't believe any narrative that I tell you. Just go, that was interesting, and not go sharing bullshit and conspiracy theories about the internet like most of the left have been doing at the moment. Everything at the moment has flipped around. The right are appealing for calm and moments of silence after a near miss and, oh, the humanity and tragedy that people have been hit by gunfire, whilst the left are screaming about, it was framed and it was all a false flag and... everything has flipped over and people are just using each other's narrative. And again, the right have been doing this kind of nonsense forever and ever and ever. They have been lionizing that little shit Kyle Rittenhouse. This is only interesting because it was Trump. And you might be thinking, oh, well, but there's Secret Service, there's security. How could this happen? Because there are very few professionals and the world is full of amateurs. And when weird shit happens, shit out of the ordinary, shit just that is so absolutely audacious and absurd as just crawling over the roof of a building, sometimes shit gets missed and goes weird. Now, the Secret Service, they ran the inner ring of steel and they let basically the local Keystone Cops of Butler County run the perimeter, a crack team of local officers whose main experience was probably involved chasing down stray cows. And they didn't miss a man with a rifle clambering up to the rooftop because an absolute Muppet, and I don't mean this as an insult, a living Muppet actually told them. But everything goes to shit when you have different teams trying to speak to each other over a distance, radio chatter, trying to communicate. You've got a Muppet turning up going, woo, 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 I see a guy with a rifle, to the local cops. You've got then the snipers out on the rooftops. They don't have a go most of the time. They are not just there to immediately boom, bang anyone, because I repeat again, Pennsylvania is an open carry state. Until that guy actually pulls the trigger, nothing is all that weird about it. Yeah, okay, he's round about Trump, but you have to understand just how lax, how insane, and how weird America is. Now, the result is 2 critically injured, 1 dead, and Trump himself taking a bullet to the ears. Now, you can again forgive the cops for not immediately acting and raising the alarm, because the man who raised the alarm looks like a Jim Henson workshop escapee, orange hair and all, clutching his beer with a Trump 2020 visor amended with Sharpie. This living Muppet swears that he saw a shooter on the roof, but of course nobody believes him because he looks like a Sesame Street character on a bender. And praise be to the dark gods of comedy, the BBC's senior American correspondent, Gary O'Donoghue, sweltering in the heat in a full tailored suit, snagged an interview with Beaker's redneck cousin. Now, I'm not being ableist here, but the fact that Gary is blind and does not know that he is just talking to a walking meme is the crowning absurdity in an already wildly surreal scene. Muppet Man swigging his pint still in hand and giving a deadpan play-by-play unfazed as if he's narrating a pub quiz. I saw the shooter up there on the roof and then they took the guy's head off. He's just seen an ex-president get clipped and a kid's head explode and he is completely nonchalant about this. And so should you be. Seriously, so should you be. This is the new normal. Weird is the new normal. The fringe and the extreme is the new normal. Get used to this. Get with the program and start running to keep up. Trump ever that a showman of a cursed circus showed up at the Republican National Convention with his ear bandaged, hamming up the role of resilient underdog. He was greeted like a returning war hero, complete with a live rendition of God Bless the USA and crowds chanting, "Fight, fight, fight!" The typical right-wing rally turned cult meeting where reality takes a backseat to whichever narrative makes their dear leader look invincible. The event wrapped up with an announcement as J.D. Vance as Trump's running mate, the man who once directly compared Trump to America's Hitler. Vance, probably as confused as anyone about this turn of events, stepped into his role with the grace of a man who's just been told he's won a holiday to Chernobyl. Presumably he was waiting to see if the American Fourth Reich was in the bag before committing himself. Oh, there will be camps and the promises of reprisal against political adversaries and unbridled power granted by a captured Supreme Court. I'm definitely in. The season finale where Trump executes Order 66 for the new American empire is just going to be wild. Now, amid all of this batfuck chaos, who do we find riding in on Trump's coattails and basking in the neon orange glow? None other than Nigel Farage, never known for his work ethic, which is akin to a stoned teenager wandering out from behind the bike sheds to find the geography teacher as often it's a supply teacher, has buggered off to America for this era-defining election. He claims that he's supporting his dear friend in his hour of need, but the opportunistic amphibian-faced shithose, his real motive is power and prestige. Farage has sniffed an opportunity like a truffle pig on a mission or an oil rig worker smelling whore's perfume in the air on Aberdeen docks. So tough luck to the folks of Clacton who elected him. If they need to discuss potholes or the local squirrel population, too bad. Teflon Don needs his limey cheerleader. The people of Clacton can wait. If Trump gets elected again, Clacton will be lucky to see Farage's shadow, let alone his face. Now, Farage is rushing to Trump's side, not out of loyalty, but a keen sense of self-interest. He craves to be in the spotlight, rubbing shoulders with the potential future emperor of the United States as he rides a bulletproof golden chariot drawn by two Russian bears through the streets in a military parade. Farage, who railed against his invented myth of unelected bureaucrats, is now cozying up to the man whose presidency could well be the second coming of fash chaos. The tangerine demagogue who tried to overturn defeat with a failed coup. Farage is not about democracy, no matter how much he's going to harp on about proportional representation. He is solely about Nigel Farage. If Trump's presidency promises him a seat at the big table, he'll throw Clacton under the bus without a second thought. And if Trump's legal troubles start to look like a one-way ticket to jail after the election, and we'll get on to that, you can bet Farage will scurry back, claiming to champion democracy once again from Clacton. And speaking of Reform UK, the not political party Farage controls like his own personal fiefdom, they managed to get 5 MPs in the Commons. The party's recent leadership shuffles suggest some cracks within. Ben Habib, ousted as deputy leader, lamented the undemocratic deficit from within Reform. Newsflash, Ben, Reform is not a political party, it's a Farage-owned enterprise. It's as democratic as North Korea. And anyone expecting otherwise is living in fantasy land. Indeed, His Holiness, the cosplay vicar for Gammonshire, Calvin Robinson, got in a Twitter spat with Farage over the number of Muslims in the party. And it's a fair point. The mob they've gathered have not gathered to see Farage hand-wringing and putting an acceptable face on things. They want the mask to drop. The longer you lie, the more you sow panic, the more that your act grows stale and you need to become more shocking. Only now Uncle Nigel is hemmed in by having to appear reasonable after Trump got winged. Farage blaming the left as usual for this, never mind that Trump's would-be assassin is a registered Republican. This is not because the left threw milkshakes at you, Nigel. You cannot shrug off the humiliation with faux dignity if the mask drops. The problem is the crowd want you to bring the monster out. The far right have always been daggers at dawn, and a new face worse than both of these is sure to emerge from the sewers if they keep prick-teasing drastic action without delivering it. The Overton window stretches ever more like demonic labia ready to give birth to something far, far worse. Now, the judge presiding over Trump's document case, I said we'd get on to this, presumably graduated from the Lionel Hutz School of Law, as she's decided that the entire concept of special counsel is unconstitutional. We've reached a point where legal interpretations are being handed out like participation trophies at a children's sports day. The judge's argument that the Attorney General does not have the authority to appoint special counsel with such immense prosecutorial powers. This would be more convincing if it wasn't contradicted by roughly 150 years of legal precedents. But hey, why let a little thing like that get in the way of the stampeding elephant beast of a returning fascism? So what's next? The Special Counsel's office is appealing to the 11th Circuit, which is likely to side with the Special Counsel. This is because the Attorney General's power to appoint special counsel dates back roughly to the time when people thought putting leeches on your skin was cutting-edge medical practice. Of course, this could all end up in the Supreme Court, and we know there's at least one justice who shares this judge's peculiar interpretation of the law, which is reassuring if you enjoy the thrill of breaks off unpredictability in your justice system. Unfortunately, the majority don't seem to agree, so we're back to trying to avoid turning the Constitution into a choose-your-own-adventure book. But let's not kid ourselves. The real goal here isn't to win the case, it's to delay proceedings after the election. And in that regard, Trump's played a blinder. He's managed to turn the judicial process into his own personal game of snakes and ladders, and he is just slithering like a fucking eel in the weeds past every obstacle. So what does this mean for us? Well, we're looking at trying to hope that the American people won't just lose their goddamn minds once again. Best of luck with that. And to those on my side of the fence, to those of us who believe that Trump is and does represent a clear and present danger to world order, I would say this. You do not want to give fascism a martyr. The moment that bullet left the chamber, the only thing that happened was fascism scored a point. That was it. There's no use crowing. There's no use saying, what if? There's no use going on the counter-offensive and saying, oh, but look at all the awful things that Trump has said. The only thing that you can do is point out and say, none of that matters. Killing off a figurehead does not matter. All that it does is give a movement a martyr, and that is an incredibly dangerous thing to do. Especially when you think 2 steps ahead. The causes of Trump have not evaporated. The conditions that led to Trump have not evaporated. The machinery that put that bloated, ignorant fool in the position that he is in have not evaporated. All that you have done is make them seem to themselves like they have a righteous cause. As soon as you buy into the idea that great individuals are the cause of things, the great man theory of history, you are buying into exactly the same nonsense that they are spreading, that you need a strong man, that they are the only ones that can deliver, which is nonsense. History does not hinge on the acts of individuals. It acts on the collection of people acting. Popular movements. It acts on conditions. It acts on the whole conditions of everything that have been set up to that point, and not one individual. There are incredibly rare scenarios where one individual has done something extraordinary, but that's because that situation was loaded towards that scenario. If you think of the people who basically did not pull the lever that fired off a retaliatory nuclear strike against a false alarm, that individual. But when you're talking about delaying or stopping or countering fascism, one bullet does not make a fucking difference. I'm Plague Doctor Jim. Watch out for the Plague Doctor graffiti and stashes of EMP grenades so you can take down the sniper robot dogs. Signing off.